Good morning, everybody. This is Miss Sinclair. It is Tuesday, January 5th, and I understand a bunch of you guys had trouble watching the video at home yesterday. I did make that video on a Chromebook, so I'm going to try and redo it on my own computer and see if that helps us out, okay? So we're starting Module 3 today, 6th grade Module 3. The whole thing about Module 3 is we're talking about positive and negative numbers and how they show up in your life. So it's kind of a fun module, actually. It's one of my favorite things to teach. So if you look at Lesson 1, we're just going to introduce what are positive and negative numbers on a number line. And then we're going to talk about what happens when you go in the opposite direction on a number line and the value of numbers on the number line. So what we're going to do to start with is we're going to make a couple of number lines. So if you have a ruler, you want to get your ruler out. If you don't, you can just do it freehand. I'm going to draw a number line here. And what makes a number line is you have arrows at each end, and the arrows just mean the number line goes on forever and ever. There are two different kinds of number lines we're going to talk about. This is the first number line. This is a horizontal number line, which means it goes side by side. Okay, we're going to put 0 in the middle. And then what you're used to seeing is a number line on this side of 0 that looks like this. But what we're going to add as 6th graders is we're going to add numbers that are on the opposite side of 0. And that's what we're going to call negative numbers. So watch the pattern of putting negative numbers on the number line. It looks like this. So the farther away you get from 0, the bigger the digits are, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And here, 1, 2, 3, 4 is as you get farther away, the numbers go like that. All right? And then there's also what we call a vertical number line. So I'm going to draw a second one. And it's a number line because of the arrows again. 0 in the middle, and this one's called a vertical number line, which means it goes up and down. And you use vertical number lines if you think about thermometers, okay? Above 0 and below 0. So that makes sense, right? But below 0, looks like that. Okay, so it's like the numbers are like flipped over. Like, look at this. They just flip them over. Right? So there's a 1 here and a 1 here. 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about. Now, the other thing we're going to talk about on a number line is that as you move to the right on a number line, if you go this way, the numbers keep getting bigger. But if you go this way on the number line, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, the numbers keep getting smaller while you move. So if you move to the left, they get smaller, and if you move to the right, they get bigger. So let's see what would happen on the vertical number line then. As you go up, the numbers get bigger, or the values get bigger. And as you go down, the values get smaller. So the smallest number on this number line is -4. And the biggest number on the number line is +4. So that's where the positive and negative numbers, that's how that works. The opposite direction means you can have positive on one side and negative on the other. Positive on one side and negative on the other, and they match up. Let's take a look at this page right here. So on page 2, it says complete the diagram and count by ones. So if I were to say to you, I know that 0 needs to go in the middle here. How do you think you would figure out which one of those tick marks is the middle one? I'll show you one way you can figure it out. This is the simpler way. Ready? Put one finger on each end, and then you go in each time by one. And you keep going inside and going inside and going inside until there's one left, and that right there is the middle, which is where you'd put the 0. Now here's another way to do it. You can count all the tick marks all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You know that you're going to have to take one of those away to count for 0. So if I take one away from 11, I have 10 left, which means 5 on each side. So there's 2 different ways to do that. So let's do the same thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. If I take one away to count for 0, then I have 10 left, which means 5 on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side, which means that's the 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on that side. Okay? Go ahead and label this counting by ones. Count by ones. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing on this side. Remember, above 0 is positive, below 0 is negative. There you go with that. Now, do you remember which one's horizontal and which one's vertical? Take a look for a minute. This right here is horizontal. And this one, where it goes up and down, vertical. Okay? So that's the basic stuff you should be able to tell. Figure out where to put 0, how to label them, which one's horizontal, which one's vertical. Okay? Now we're going to pick a point on this number line. So I'm going to pick positive 4. So go ahead and mark positive 4. If I were to flip this over from positive 4, and I flipped it over, where would I end up? Where would I match that at? I would match that at negative 4. So let's look at these 2 numbers for just a second. These 2 numbers are considered opposites. They have the same digit, so they're using 4 both times, but one's a positive number, one's a negative. One's on the right side of 0, one's on the left side of 0. And the other thing that you need to remember is that they're both the same distance away from 0. So if I move from 0 up here, I count 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Okay? So right here, we're going to write some things down about that. Okay? Every number has an opposite. Opposites, like 4 and negative 4, are the same distance away from 0. So there's 2 important things there. Every number has an opposite, and opposites are the same distance away from 0. Then, let me tell you this little nugget of fun. 0 is its own opposite. So if I say, give me the opposite of 14, you would say, what? Negative 14. What if I said, give me the opposite of negative 2? You'd say negative 2. The opposite of infinity is negative infinity, and the opposite of 0 is 0. Okay? So let's go to our problem set here. And on our problem set, we're going to solve some of these problems together. Let me grab a sheet of paper real quick. So you can do these problems in your math notebook, because there's really not a lot of space on this page to answer them. So let's do this in your math notebook. We're going to draw a number line, create a scale in order to plot the points -2, +4, and 6. So we're going to draw a number line. So here's number 1, draw a number line. But this time we're not going to count by ones. Okay? So when it says create a scale, and it gives us these numbers that have to be on there, what do you think we should count by? So go ahead and put this number line in your composition book. We're going to count by 2s this time, because the scale means every interval in between has to be the same amount. So you can't go like -6 and then 2, 1, 0, or 1, 5, 7. They have to count, you have to like count by some same number. So we're going to plot these points, -2, +4, and +6. Okay? So once your number line looks like that, let's go down and take a look at the next one. So let's graph each point, which we just did. And now it says graph its opposite on the number line. Okay? So let's go up here and look. What's the opposite of -2? +2. What's the opposite of +4? -4. What's the opposite of +6? It's -6. Okay? Then the next question says, explain how you found the opposite of each point. So I'm going to go back to what we wrote over here. And the way you find an opposite is it's the same distance away from 0 on the opposite side of 0. So we're going to say opposites are on different sides of 0, right? One's on this side and one's on this side. And they are the same distance away from 0. Okay? So they're on opposite sides of 0, like 2 and -2, and they're the same distance away from 0. If you look at 4 and -4, they're the same distance away from 0, but on opposite sides of 0. So that's it for question 1. Let's take a look at question number 2. And again, you're doing this in your composition book. You're going to take a picture and send it to me. So here's number 2. Carlos uses a vertical number line. Okay, so you know what that means. And we're going to graph these points. So let's set that up. Now, first of all, it doesn't say what scale we should use, but I have to get 4, 2, 3, and 4. So what do you think we should count by on this one? Here's my vertical number line. There's 0 in the middle. Well, we know we have to get all the way up to 4 on both sides, but they're not all even numbers, right? There's a 3 in there. So let's go ahead and count by ones this time. So there's my vertical number line. I'm going to put all these points on there. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so it looks like that. But here's the question. When Carlos drew it, he notices that number 4 is closer to 0 than number 2. So is number 4 closer to 0 than number -2? Is -4 closer to 0 than -2? No, it's not. So his drawing is wrong. Remember, a -2 is 2 spaces away from 0, and a negative 4 is 4 spaces away from 0. So we're going to say Carlos is wrong. Okay? Let's take a look at number 3. Create a scale. So we know we're not counting by ones, right? Create a scale to graph the numbers negative 12 through positive 12 on a number line. What does each tick mark represent? Okay, so let's go ahead and draw a number line. This is problem number 3. Here's my number line. Here's 0. And I have to end up with 12 and negative 12. And I don't want to count by ones. So how can I go from 0 to 12? What could I count by? There's actually a lot of different answers. We could count by 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That's a lot of tick marks. We could count by 3s, 3, 6, 9, 12. We could count by 4s, that would be 4, 8, 12. Or we could count by 6s, actually. 0, 6, 12. So any of those would be correct. But tell me, what does each tick mark mean then? What did we count by here? In this one, each tick mark equals 6. So we counted by 6s. Okay? I'm going to do number 4 together, and then we're going to quit for this video. And what I want you to do if you're working from home and you're not in class, so Math 6 virtual people or anybody that was absent from school on Monday, you need to turn in this document in Kami. Or no, you need to, here's what you would turn in. You would turn in a picture of the work you put in your composition book. I'm sorry. So everything that you've been writing in your composition book, now if you didn't write in your composition book when I asked you to, you're going to have to go back and write it in your composition book because that's what you're going to get a grade on today. All right? So we're going to do question number 4. And it says we're going to choose an integer between negative 5 and negative 10. Label it R on the number line that you created in problem 3. Okay, so here's the number line we made for problem 3. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to write forward. I'm going to make the same exact number line, and we're going to use it for the same exact thing. Okay, so there's my number line. I need to choose an integer between 5 and 10, or between negative 5 and negative 10. Now, 5 would be over here, negative 5 would be there, and negative 10 would be there. So what number is in between there? It's going to be the negative 6, right? That's the only one in between these two places. So I'm going to take negative 6, and it says to label that R on the number line, and then do the rest of it. So here's where we're going to start. What's the opposite of R? So what's the opposite of negative 6? It says label it Q. What's a positive integer greater than Q? So on my number line, a positive integer that's greater than this one would be 12, right? And we're going to label that T. A negative integer greater than R. So here's R, negative 6, but I'm going to need a negative number that's bigger than R, which means I have to move this way. Now, we don't have any more integers marked in there, but we know there's numbers in there, right? Halfway between, what would be halfway between 0 and 6? We could put a halfway between, right? So negative 3 is bigger than negative 6. So we're going to label that S. And if this is a little bit confusing, don't worry. This is the first time we've done this. A negative integer less than R. So here's R. Less than goes this way. So the negative number that's less than R is U. And give me an integer between R and Q. So here's R and here's Q. And I need any integer, so positive or negative or 0. Let's pick 0, because that's an integer and it's right in between those two. V. Okay, so folks, if you are not in class face-to-face, what you have to do is follow this video, put these notes in your composition book, take a picture, or you can do a screenshot if you want to in Kami. Turn this into me for credit for participating in class today. If you have any questions or if this video is still not looking right, please let me know. Okay? You guys have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.